Hello, and thank you for joining us on another edition of the Pigskin Preview. Alongside the head coach of the Western Illinois football team, Bob Nielsen, I'm Andrew Bacon. Thanks for joining us again, Coach.
Good to be here.
Last weekend, the Leathernecks had a bye week, and so, Coach, obviously it's a little bit later in the year for that, but what are some of the advantages that you were able to have the team take a break with?
Well, we took a step back. We practiced 3 days during the bye week. All 3 days we had a strong emphasis on fundamentals. Some things, both offensively and defensively, we felt we needed to work on. We spent a lot of time in some of the areas in the kicking game where we need to improve and even broke those areas down and worked fundamentally. It created an opportunity for us to give some of our younger players some repetitions. We did a short scrimmage Wednesday with our younger players that gave them an opportunity to actually get some live work, which they don't get very often because they're always simulating the other team's offense and defense. So it was a very productive week, along with getting a jump start on our preparation for Indiana State.
Well, this weekend, with no highlights, I went ahead and took the time to interview offensive coordinators Ted Schlafly and A.J. Blazik to talk about how the offense has performed so far this season.
They're understanding what we're looking for. Going along with the experience factors, they're understanding what defenses are doing to us and how we can attack them differently, and adjustments that we need to make throughout the game in the second half, and their confidence is being built.
We've pieced a lot of places in there. I looked in like week 5, and our 5 leading statistical guys offensively were not here in spring football. Whether it's true freshman wide receivers, whether it's transfer slot receivers in high C, and and guys like Freddie and at the receiver position and Nico have done a great job welcoming some more playmakers, and that's helped. And so those guys in 15 days of August had to learn everything. I'm an eternal optimist, so 24 hours it'll hurt me a little bit after a loss, but our job is to get them back up and get going and find a way to win this next week. And for us, it's lucky we get a bye week. So we really get to go over for the last 5 weeks. It's always something we've shot ourselves in the foot. In the third quarter, we've been in every football game. Yeah. And so how to get over the hump, how to finish, and Coach Nielsen's talked about that a lot. And the relationships with the players and coaches is very good, because I think that's been the fun part for me is they're open. They're, Coach, we'll try anything. We want to win.
The offense for the Leathernecks has struggled in several games early on in the year. Reasons has varied why though. Some games too many early turnovers, not being able to get enough first downs, or just being in bad field positions. Co-offensive coordinators Ted Schlafly and A.J. Blazik have tried to get them off to faster starts, and each game have shown improvement. However, there's still room to get games going much quicker for the offense and try to win the final 2 games of the year.
In order to start faster, we probably need to get JC involved possibly a little bit differently, and some of those guys that help spark us and see if we can't get sparked a little bit quicker. We've had a couple critical penalties and a couple turnovers earlier a couple weeks ago, and that gets you down right away.
I'd come out in pregame. I was a little different coach, and I said, we don't have a lot of emotion. Maybe it's because we're young. Maybe it's because we've not ever walked out on the field expecting we're going to roll these guys up. And that comes with attitude. You got to have an attitude going out there that, hey, it's unfortunate they had to come play us today, and we just haven't earned. You got to earn that. You win some close ball games, you win some big games, and that naturally just happens. And I was after guys right away. We got to start fast. We're shot out of a cannon. We got to come out and punch them right in the teeth. And so as coaches, once again, we got to create that atmosphere.
Although the Leathernecks have struggled to start games, in the second half the offense comes out strong and manages to almost always get points on the board and give Western Illinois a shot to win the game. An interesting stat for the offense is that over a third of their points are scored in the third quarter alone, showing their never-give-up attitude and the great adjustments at halftime.
It speaks volumes, and I just said earlier, they want to win, and they're willing to do what it takes, and they listen to us. And the biggest thing when we watch games or we watch practice every night, it's just some little things, some things that have really helped us. Teddy's done a great job calling games where, hey, we keep it pretty simple, and each week we get a little more simple, because we're all so young and new together as an offensive, set of players. 2 years from now, these guys will all have played together for 3 years.
Well, I think that's huge for them, and it's that builds their confidence to play from behind. Now we have to get over the hump of coming all the way back or starting faster and playing that way right off the bat so we can build a lead and force them to play from behind and put a little more pressure on them, because what happens is these offenses, they can become a little bit more conservative, which makes it tougher for our guys to get turnovers and and get us the football back. And when we play with urgency, we're a really good football team. When we don't, we're struggling right now.
The Leathernecks on offense are very young this year. Of the 11 players that have started 6 games or more, 5 of them are freshmen or sophomore. Having such a new squad has its pros and cons for the team.
We're fortunate because our running backs are a little bit older. We got 2 juniors and guys that have been in some battles, and so they kind of help the offensive line come along, and our 2 seniors have done a good job for us this year. The inside 3 guys were really young, probably got thrown in the fire earlier than they needed to, but all the reps, and I always joke around, I say 10 game reps is like 10 practices, because you get the speed, you have to make decisions on the fly, and so they've gotten a lot of reps. They've probably learned under fire. I think that's going to really help them their last 2 years, because our guard, center, and guards, they all have 2 to 3 years left.
Some of the pros of having some new guys in there, some younger guys, is they don't have as many different habits, and not really bad habits, just different habits from how they've done it in the past. And those are a little bit easier to break and get going in our direction the way that we're looking to do it. The tough part is the experience factor, knowing how to handle certain situations that they haven't seen before, and just seeing how fast they have to grow up pretty quick in that regard. And a lot of them have, they definitely haven't stopped working, and that's really all that you can ask as you go is, you say get better every day. They have to want to work and do that, and they have.
There's not a lot of cons. It's just you want to fast forward time, to where guys, we're a little greedy at times, and it's probably the competitive side. I want to win today. I want to have 5 all-conference guys today. And so when we're at practice, we're pretty up-tempo and pretty demanding. And, I joke with my guys, 6 days a week, you're mine. I got to get you right. I got to get you right, every little thing. So I press pretty hard for 6 days a week. And then game day, I tell them that's fun. Game day's got to be special. And that's probably where it's taken us longer than anything else, is game day is not just another day. It is. It's time to turn it on. The lights go on, the crowd comes out, and it's a special day. And when they, I take the pressure off. I tell them if it's wrong on Saturday, I didn't do a good job preparing you.
With just 2 games left, Coach Schlafke and Coach Blazek are hoping to use these final games to gain momentum and get a good start to the offseason for next year with all the youth still returning.
It would be huge to go into our recruiting and finish this season with 2 huge wins, and that'll be the focus from this morning until the end of the season, and being able to get that and get on the right track. And these guys have been waiting a long time for their payday for all the work that they've put in, and if we can do that here, start with Indiana State, that would be awesome. It'd be great for the seniors to go out that way. It'd be unbelievable for the young guys to springboard them into the rest of their careers.
This season, the offense has had some struggles being consistent, but as the season has progressed, Coach, the offense has become much more consistent. And so, how have you kind of seen the offense grow? And then, is this what you kind of expected the offense to be at before the season started?
Well, we've improved. We're young at important positions. Quarterback being involved in playing for the first time. Trenton Norvell has improved. He's gotten better. I think his last 2 games have been his best 2 games of the season. Our offensive line has begun to get more confident in the things that we're asking them to do, and our young receivers continue to improve. So we're getting to where we want to be. Are we where we want to be? No, but we've become more consistent, which is critical to our winning football games in the future.
And how, I guess, your personal feelings about where they're at currently right now as compared to what we started with at the beginning of the season? What are kind of, I guess, your grade for where they've grown so far?
2 things. I think we've improved just understanding conceptually what we're doing and being able to adjust offensively week to week. Part of what you do offensively is fundamentals and the same things that you can adapt to every defensive scheme, and then you always have some game plan adjustments. And early in the year, it was really hard for us to add the game plan adjustments because we weren't very good at some of the fundamental things. And now, as we've gained confidence in the fundamental things, we've also been able to put in some specific game plan adjustments, which has made us more productive.
And a quick fact about adjustments is the Leathernecks have actually over 33% of their points scored in the third quarter, and so obviously a lot of halftime adjustments that they've adjusted to very well. And we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, but you'll want to stay tuned as up next we'll talk about the defensive side of the ball. You're watching the Pigskin Preview.
Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks. Visit us at stoptextstoprex.org.
Welcome back to the Pigskin Preview. Earlier this week, I sat down with defensive coordinator Brian Ward to talk about how he feels the defense has performed thus far this season.
Our number one goal is to stop the run, and we want to be able to contain teams throwing the football, and we have a lot of points of emphasis that we really focus on each week. One is stopping the run. Two is being great on third down. We call it money down. We also want to be able to force turnovers, something that we have done this year. Our goal is to create 3 a game, and our guys have really bought into what we're trying to do, and the beauty of it is, we can always get better.
Comparing last season to this season, in just Coach Ward's second year as defensive coordinator here at Western Illinois, he has improved in almost every major category defensively, allowing less passing yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, and on pace to have more turnovers than last season. Coach Ward does have a very key advantage, though, when it comes to game planning against offenses.
I'm a former, believe it or not, coach on offense, and I subscribe to the fact that offenses usually won't turn the football over unless they have either A, pressure put on them, B, they're getting out hit, or the final, number 3, if they're not getting the picture that they expect. And so, what we try to do with our defense is we try to give the same picture pre-snap and post-snap. We're going to change what we look like, whether it's a coverage or a front or a movement. We're trying to get into a defense that's going to be an answer for what we believe the offense is going to run against us. So, we've been fortunate to get offenses to make mistakes to give us the football, and that's really just philosophically what our defense is about.
Contributing to the defense's success has been having majority of players return from last year. From last year, there were 12 players who started 6 or more games, and 9 of those players returned this year for the Leathernecks.
We're at a point where we can be a little more diverse with what we're doing defensively. We're a little quicker to come up with adjustments. Rather than having to go through things the first time, now we're going through them the second time. And although it's not perfect, it's still it's definitely more efficient.
Looking to the future, even though this is a very game-experienced squad, the Leathernecks still have a lot of players who started this year returning to play next year. This season, the defense has 11 players who have started 6 or more games in just 10 games so far, and yet 7 of these players will come back to play for the Leathernecks next season.
Number one, it speaks to our youth. We have some young players playing. We also have some very valuable older guys that will be leaving the program. What we're doing defensively right now is, we're playing average of about 18, 19 guys a game, which means we're just, we're hopefully just continuing to build, and hopefully it's going to pay off for us in the future, having guys that have experience, and that's basically what, this system is really about. It's not multiple look, multiple front, multiple, it really focuses on fundamentals, and hopefully the longer the system's in place, the better the results and the outcomes will be.
With just 2 games left, the Leathernecks unfortunately are out of the playoff hunt. However, going out and winning the final 2 games of the season would be huge for Western Illinois to gain momentum going into the offseason. So Coach Ward will look to get his defense to clean up some mistakes and try and finish the season off right.
Number one, just execution. Our execution can always get better, and our guys knowing the rules of their position. I think sometimes guys tend to be more robotic in their approach to some of the defensive calls rather than fully understanding why. I really believe there's three phases of learning, knowing what to do, how to do it, and then finally, and this is what our goal for in year 3 is going to be, is knowing why they're doing it. And when you know why you're doing something, then it doesn't create any margin for indecision or indecisiveness, on defense. And that's what defense should be about, is attacking and being aggressive and playing fast. And I think at times, over these past 2 years, there's been some indecision, and I think that's part of the learning curve, and that's why I believe this system's the best system for a 4-year college program.
Coach, when the season started, the defense was relied on a little bit more to kind of take some of the pressure off the offense with more experience on the defensive side. And Coach Ward being in his second year, how have you kind of felt the defense has continued to improve and been that reliable force?
Well, we've been pretty consistent defensively. We put a little bit more pressure on them early when we were struggling moving the football early in the year. We had to play a lot of defense. There were times when teams finally wore us down towards the end of games. When you look at the Minnesota game and the UNLV game, particularly. Overall, our defense has done a good job of helping keep us in games where we've been competitive here, even though we haven't won over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Unfortunately, it's been been the one area of our football team where we've had a number of injuries, and we've lost some key guys there that would help our depth and make us even better.
And so, as you said, you've lost some key players, but I know I talked to Coach Ward. He said one player that's really stepped up for them is Kevin Kensel. Can you talk about some of the other players that kind of helped and stepped up and take over for players such as Jean-Marc Charles, Ethan Pigskin, and some other guys that have gotten injured?
Well, our defensive front guys, when you really look at that group, Ryan Deming has had a good year. Chip Holschlag has had a really good year for a guy that's a bit undersized at that position in our league. He plays exceptionally hard and has become a real playmaker for us. And you mentioned Kevin Kinsel becoming the leader of that running back or linebacker group with J.J. Raffleson being out due to injury. Kevin's had to take more responsibility. He's a guy that can play multiple positions. And then our secondary, a group that has some depth. Martinez Davis and Antoine Ford have had good years at the cornerback position. That was a strength, I thought, coming out of spring with those two. And we've been able to play a number of different people at the safety position with Rollins and Dallas Nichols as a newcomer, along with returner David McDaniel, have given us some depth there.
And a lot of key guys returning next year, so that'll be fun to see them next year return. We're going to take another quick break, but stay tuned. Up next, we'll have our featured player of the week. This is the Pigskin Preview.
Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks. Visit us at stoptextsstopwrecks.org.
As Coach Nielsen and I discussed, the defense was relied on when the season started with its experience. However, early into the season, the defense lost one of its starters and team captains, senior defensive lineman Ethan Pigskin. Pigskin was injured in the first conference game of the season and has been unable to play since then. Although despite this hurdle, Pigskin has done anything he can to continue assisting the team and staying as a senior coach for fellow teammates. This week, the senior leader is our featured player.
Initially, I heard it at UNLV and didn't think anything of it. Just thought it was just, maybe I just strained a muscle or something. And then I practiced that week, felt fine. And then during warm-ups against South Dakota, I was going against Jimmy Holschlag, and he hit me, and I guess I was at an awkward angle, and my shoulder just popped. And I thought that maybe just the adrenaline, I could, just fight it off. The adrenaline would be all right, and I'd be able to just, shake it off, and nothing would come of it. But probably every single play I was in, it popped, and then it just got harder and harder to hold my arm up because it just felt like it was just going to fall off. And after, I think it was like the second series, I knew that I can't go on any longer. But probably at the moment where I was like, I know I can't go on any longer, Antoine Ford got an interception. So I was like, okay, go find somebody to hit. And then I'd met with the doctor and our trainer, and they both said as soon as I came to the sideline that something was torn, and they didn't know how bad it was. And they knew it was that most likely this was going to be the end. So probably when I came to the sideline against South Dakota was when we knew. We didn't know exactly, but we knew it was that. And then I got a MRI a week later, and it showed that it was over.
So you're saying it's Jimmy's fault?
Yeah, 100% Jimmy's fault. Put that in there. It's Jimmy's fault.
After realizing he was most likely done for the year, senior captain Ethan Pigskin had two choices. He could either quit knowing he had played his final collegiate game or continue to support his team in any way possible.
At that moment, I just kind of like sitting on the sideline, I was like, okay, I can either sit here and sulk, or I can help us, come back and win, be as supportive as I can. And that's what I did. I got some pain meds just to kind of take my mind off of my shoulder for a bit. And for the rest of the South Dakota game, I was in there, and like someone had a question or something, I'd help them out. But I kind of just, stayed back because our D-line, we knew exactly what to do.
Being injured, unfortunately, isn't new to Pigskin. Every year since he's been at Western, he has been injured and missed games. However, Pigskin is not alone in this. Another athlete at Western Illinois has had similar problems with injuries and talked to the captain about having this bad luck.
I've been injured every single year in college, which hasn't been fun. I've got a couple broken ankles, some broken ribs, and now in my shoulder. But if this is the worst thing that happens in my life, then I'll definitely have a good life. Like I talked to Billy Molinari about it, and because he gotten injured around the same time that I did, and he was telling me, he's like, I guess it just wasn't made to play, but if this is the worst thing that happens, then I'll have still a pretty good life. And I kind of took that into perspective, like, there are definitely worse things that could have happened, but it obviously sucks because I haven't really played much college football, and I don't feel I've reached my potential, and I still definitely would love to play the game, but I guess there's another plan out there for me shouldn't be playing football.
Besides when the Leathernecks played against South Dakota, Ethan Pigskin has been with the team through it all, showing up to every game, going to practice when he can, and has even done some behind-the-scenes work and been more of a player coach, something the senior considered going into coming to Western Illinois.
First coming into college, I was like, I might want to coach, I might not, and then I decided that I kind of want to be an athletic director, go pursue a degree in that. But now that I'm helping out with the guys a little bit and seeing behind the scenes more as what the coaches do, I do not want to coach at all. They put in 100-hour weeks, it seems like, and Coach Nielsen I think arrives here at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then he'll go to bed at like 1:30 in the morning. So he sleeps half an hour a night, I think. And along with all the other coaches, they put in just as many hours, and I do not want to do that. I want to be home at 5 o'clock and enjoy my time alone.
Coach, this season for the Leathernecks, the team lost their team captain, Ethan Pigskin, one of their team captains. How did that affect the team, seeing him go down so early in the season?
Well, it affects your depth, certainly, at that position group. Ethan was a guy that had become a playmaker for us on defense. From a leadership standpoint, having him in uniform would definitely be beneficial as well. But he's done such a good job. He's one of those guys that's had a career that's been marred by injuries, and you feel for guys like that, and you wish that they have a tremendous senior year, and Ethan's made the most out of his senior year, even though he's been unable to play for most of it.
And then talk about some of the things that he's really done for this team, even though he can't be on the field, just some of the assisting he has done for you guys as coaches and for the players.
He's a very knowledgeable football player, and has helped our younger defensive linemen with some technique. Working with Coach Entz and that position group. Comes from a family of coaches. His dad, a longtime high school football coach, and so he understands what coaching's all about and the importance that leaders on a team have.
And then talk about his character, because his character, some seniors or some players who get injured and they're done for the season, like, oh, I'm done. They just kind of, I don't want to say leave the team, but they're not around the team as much. How much does this speak to his character that he's not going to just give up on this Leatherneck football team and stay with it and continue to help out?
Ethan represents what you want in a college football player, a tremendous student, talented athlete, but most importantly, just a great person and a great reflection on Leatherneck football.
And some other players besides Ethan Pigskin, Mason Hallington, some of those other seniors that have had those unfortunate injuries have really helped the Leathernecks in any way that they can. And so we're going to take another break, but stay tuned as we'll take a look and see how the other Missouri Valley teams did while Western Illinois was on their bye week. You're watching the Pigskin Preview.
Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks. Visit us at stoptextstoprex.org.
Welcome back. Let's go and take a look at the scores of the Missouri Valley teams from last weekend. As we see there, South Dakota lost a close one to Montana, who by 31-27, but Montana, a very good team, and this is a South Dakota team that's been 3-3, and that just really shows the Missouri Valley depth in teams. Northern Iowa finally won a conference game as they beat Youngstown State, And Coach, I mean, that was a big win for them because they were expected to be that kind of opponent, and they won 22-20, finally getting over the hump there. South Dakota State just ran past Indiana State, who's been just battled with injuries, 29-0. We'll talk a little bit more, but their quarterback once again would get injured early on in the game. He's had the injury bug all season. And then Illinois State lost to North Dakota State 28-10. Missouri State beat Southern Illinois 37-27, and then of course Western Illinois had the bye week. Let's go ahead and take a look at the standings now. North Dakota State is now the only team undefeated in conference, as they are 6-0. Youngstown State is 5-1 in conference. Missouri State, who's really leapt up in quite a few wins, as they're 5-2, standing at third, and they started conference play at 0-4, and so that's a tribute to their team to not letting a bad start in their season. Illinois State 4-3, South Dakota State, Southern Illinois, and South Dakota all at 3-3. Northern Iowa and Western Illinois at 1-5, and then Indiana State at 0-6. Taking a look at the matchups this weekend, South Dakota State will travel to Dakota Dome to take on South Dakota. Northern Iowa will travel south and try and beat Missouri State in Springfield. Youngstown State plays host to North Dakota State, which could decide who wins the conference, with Youngstown State, if they're able to beat North Dakota State, would be in a tie for the conference championship and make it a possibly. And then Southern Illinois plays host to Illinois State, and then of course, Coach, Western Illinois will travel to Terre Haute, Indiana, to take on the Sycamores. Going into the game, the Sycamores are 0-5 in conference, and so, Coach, as I said a little bit with the graphics there, they've had a lot of injury bugs. Shakir Bell, he had an unfortunate start to the season, tried to come back and has been declared out for the season. Their quarterback, Mike Parrish, has also had a lot of difficulties with injuries. Just talk a little bit about going to the game and what you expect with a team that's just battled with injuries.
Well, they're a lot like we are. As I've mentioned, a team that's working hard to try to get a win. They've played in a lot of close games, particularly early in the conference schedule, a number of close games that could have gone either way. They've had some injuries on the offensive side, much like we've had injuries on the defensive side that have impacted their depth and some of their key players and the guys that have been in and out of the lineup, and it's hard to be consistent when you have guys that are in and out of the lineup. So they'll be a formidable opponent. I know they're very excited to get back home. They've been on the road for the last 2 weeks, and a team that, for the last 2 years has been in the upper half of the Missouri Valley Conference and still has a lot of the players from those teams that have been successful.
And Coach, again, another questionable quarterback call with which quarterback could play. Have you heard of any word, or can you tell us anything if Mike Parrish is going to be able to play?
The only thing I've heard is it'll be a game time decision with Parrish, I know he's been battling a couple of different injuries. And again, it's not that you necessarily prepare for specific quarterbacks. He certainly is a very experienced player and has been a great performer for him. If he doesn't play, the guy that would take his spot has now been involved in a lot of games, and so it's not like they're going to be playing somebody that's not got any experience.
I'm sure it's easier for you guys to look at film, so you actually have film of both guys instead of just one game or half a game. Yeah. All right, thank you, Coach. This week, let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers for Indiana State. And then looking at the positive side, some of the things that Indiana State have done well is their red zone defense has only allowed 80%. Obviously, 80% is pretty high, but still that's not 90 or 100. Pass defense is ranked fourth with only allowing 181.5 yards. And then their total defense allowing 367 yards. And then penalties, they've been a very disciplined team, only 45 penalties so far this season, averaging for about 41 yards per game. So they're third in the conference with that. And then some negatives is they do allow quite a few points, 37 points per game allowed. They're last in the conference. Also last in run defense, allowing 185 yards on the ground. Another thing that they're last in for the conference is in total offense. They've only averaged 316 yards per game, and then their rushing offense is only 126 yards. And then finally, they have allowed 39 sacks. And Coach, they kind of have a struggle with offensive linemen. They've lost a couple offensive linemen from last year that were very key for them, so a younger offensive lineman. The Leathernecks will take on the 0-5 Indiana State Sycamores in Terre Haute, Indiana at 2 p.m. Eastern, or if you're watching here, 1 p.m. Central this Saturday. But for us, that's all the time we have for you this week on the Pigskin Preview. For Coach Bob Nielsen, I'm Andrew Bacon. Thanks for watching.